Our next speaker will be speaking on the topic managing SME risk for value creation. Managing SME risk for value creation. And our speaker is Dr. Samuel Boateng, who is the CEO of Boateng.
Thank you very much, brother. And thanks, Chamber, for a wonderful opportunity. We talk about the impact of SMEs on our economy and how they contribute to the resilience and the sustainability of most economies, including Ghana. Why we don't do well is how we build competitiveness moving forward. And, as far as we are concerned as a chamber and myself, I believe one of the best approaches is to ensure we design good risk management systems to ensure we reduce losses and reduce our costs going forward, ensuring a more competitive SMEs. So I'll be talking through investment returns and risk. That's a natural risk. The benefits SMEs will have in ensuring we manage risks, the steps we go through managing risk, supply chain systems and how we manage supply chains, how to build resilience as part of the risk response program, and how these things create value and all that. I believe for sure that one of the things I need to do as SMEs is to make sure we understand the main investment returns for the different industries and the risks that go with that. And these kind of risks I'm talking about, these are natural risks. It's not a business connected, business related risk. So a kind of an appetite you may have when it comes to investing in a particular industry has to be with the natural risk you face. Then it comes to the actual risk that the SMEs are going to face as well. I know for sure that the chamber has done a very good job. I'm not very sure why we really are not communicating this important information. We have done a lot of work on building so many performance indexes for businesses, growth, value, resilience, sustainability, innovation, and risk. And then we will even design an SME policy index performance. We want to really measure how SME policies are affecting SME performance and all that. And I've picked just one item out of the industry profiles. We constructed about 60. We use our 60 metrics to construct industry profiles. And I picked just one, talk about the investment returns. Agro and agribusiness, for example, the net return on investment is roughly about 30%. But the EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization, is about 60%. Look at the spread, look at the gap. What is the reason? External costs, taxes, and interest rates are high. And then lack of risk management that will lead to losses and all that. So it's important that we really understand this and find ways and means of bridging the gap between net return on investment and EBITDA return on investment. And then use this to preach and do advocacy to see find ways and means of ensuring the government and the taxman reduces the cost of credit. The tax one reduces the tax, and the government puts in place the right programs to ensure we work towards a decline in the cost of credit. I'm not a normal advocate of the natural policy management to reduce costs. I believe in the microeconomic management program to ensure these things are. We talk about that very soon. Why do you have to manage risk as SMEs? Because it will help in ensuring we reduce uncertainties. It will help in ensuring we plan well and execute very successfully when it comes to objectives and strategy. It will help in ensuring that we get our businesses running very well and becoming the kind of flexible businesses that we really want so that we can plan around it. In all that, it will lead to value creation, it will lead to growth, it will lead to resilience, it will lead to more sustainable businesses, and then build our reputations around it. What are the steps involved? You see, we believe that we don't go straight to identifying the risk, profiling it, analyzing it. We believe that the first step is to ensure you understand the events the risk events and find ways and means of understanding whether these events are impacting our business or not. And then we put in place corrective programs. What are some of the corrective programs? They have to be with building good resilience so that we can restrict ourselves around these shocks when it comes in, whether anticipated or unexpected. Just as the COVID did. If you have the right resilience programs in place, we will be able to really absorb some of these shocks that come our way. And then we do go through compliance, ensuring that we don't lose so much as a result of lack of compliance. We find ways and means of ensuring that we stick to our programs, get to the compliant man, and ensure that we work ourselves around making sure we are very compliant and avoid losses, avoid unnecessary charges and penalties. And then we come to the risk management program proper. You identify, you profile, you analyze. Once these things have been done, it will lead you to categorize the various risks. Now, if I've managed to categorize the risks, it will help you to really understand which types of risks are really impacting on the type of industry you find yourself in. And there are two facets. One is the risk categories and profiles, and then the types of risk that really impacts on you that much, and then the enterprise-wide risk program and how they impact on your business as well. Once that is done, you get to the proper risk management proper. Look at ways and means of ensuring that you design a validation program that assesses how risks are impacted on the program. And what are the types of risks we talked about? There are three categories: financial risks, non-financial risks, and strategic risks. What are the financial risks? Market risk, credit risk, liquidity risk. What are market risks? Market risk is defined as the possibility of loss as a result of certain events. Sometimes these events may be expected, sometimes they may not be expected. When it comes to market risk, it's as a result of changes in market dynamics, interest rate, exchange rate, liquidity. The market demand, most of we here, the SMEs, may be really be facing. Sometimes the COVID actually gave us a challenge. Market demand actually declined. So these are market exposures. Exchange rate, for example, Ghana CD depreciates. Obviously, you're going to spend more money buying back the products that you sold off. And the reason why policymakers must be so interested in this is that when I get more, pay more in procuring my goods, then I have to push these costs to the customer, and the customer is going to pay her. What then happens? Inflation. It triggers inflation. It is straightforward. So inflation is not normally managed by fiscal squeezing the system, refusing to pay contracts and all that. Inflation, sometimes you do microeconomic optimization of the drivers of the purchases and the power of purchases. And then interest rate too, if it changes, obviously costs go up. Again, I don't believe in so much in the use of MPR, policy planning, to ensure we really push the cost down. I believe more in ensuring that we really manage ourselves around the cost. If costs go up, SMEs, for sure, will see operational cost increase. As a result, it will impact on the cost of their production, and then they will transfer this cost to the market. Again, another trigger of inflation. Another area is commodity prices. If I'm into business and I buy more, I use more fuel and all that in the kind of business I do. Gold and all that. All these commodities will change. When they change, obviously, it will impact on my business. Other important area, risk, credit risk. Credit risk, when it comes to bank, obviously is connected to the NPLs that they give out. When it comes to SMEs here, it has to do more with the kind of businesses, products we sell on credit, the receivables, and then maybe the kind of risks we take on from the banks. These put together will constitute the kind of a credit risk that the companies may face as well. And then we get to liquidity. Liquidity is an important area when it comes to SMEs. It comes in different fashions. It may be a trade-off between receivables and payables. If you have more payables and receivables, it will give you a less negative cash balance for sure. Another important area is to work on capital structure. If you are overly exposed to credit, you are going to get more of your net earnings into paying back your financial costs. Another important area is the optimization of working capital and CapEx, capital expenditures. Most SMEs, I must say, will use these funds that are meant for working capital into expansion. They do that. They start off with an expansion equipment, forgetting that the scenario may change and the distance between the inception point of your expansion equipment purchase and the revenue generation point may outlive the kind of basket, the liquidity basket that you have in the basket. So at the end of the day, you realize that the monies that have moved into the papers become sticky cash, very gluey. You can't move it out. But your monies in the working capital basket have depleted. Again, you go back to the bank and they will spare you. They will squeeze you big time. They will charge you money for overdrafts and short-term loan. These are very expensive things. So you have to make sure you balance yourself and do scenarios. Engage your board. Make sure don't do rubber stamp boards. Make sure you get boards, directors that are very good, that are sharp, that advise you on the liquidity, capital optimization of your business, where what should go into working capital and what should go into capex. Then we get to operational, the non-financial risk, operational risk, product risk, and then compliance. Operational risk comes as a result of loss due to lapses in processes, technology, systems, human beings, and all that. This is one of the serious, one of the most difficult risks to manage, because you have to document internal information going forward and do your processes. When there's a lapse, when there's a breakdown in your system, for example, you have to document the time that has this breakdown has occurred, and also document the losses that have come as a result of that. Do that over the time. Appoint somebody more like a risk champion to ensure these guys are able to do that. Do that, those documentations moving forward. Product risk, also effective products and all that. You have to manage it, find ways and means of understanding it, how it has impacted on revenue, how it impacts on the market, how it impacts on competitiveness as well. Compliance, we all know if you fail to do comply, penalties are there, potential risks are there. And then we come to strategic risk. The strategic risk comes as a result of poor scenarios, poor testing, stress testing, and poor debiasing. The scenarios are such that the companies are exposed. Production may change, market may change, the dynamics may change. So make sure that you put all these scenarios. Now, thanks to certain softwares like Crystal Ball, can do very powerful simulation for you, so that you create a beautiful scenario for your business going forward, so that when systems change, when certain environments change, you're able to respond to the right system and ensure that you optimize your production. When it comes to stress testing, I've talked about the different risks. And then I've talked about the fact that industries face natural risks. As the kind of risk appetite that SMEs want to face, given the nature of risk dictated by markets, competition, products, and all that. Now, if you're able to do that, and then move your risk appetite to risk tolerance. If you're able to do that, for example, if the appetite, you have risk appetite, which is your readiness to lose about 20% of your profits. That is your appetite you have. And then can you stretch it maybe to about 25% of loss? That is the tolerance. And then you use the tolerance and do a stress testing to see whether 25% will have a serious impact on your business. If you can't tolerate that, you slow it down and then move it. And then debiasing. Most of us have a portfolio of products. Sometimes one product may be defective. And if you have branded your business around your company rather than products, as I said, Unilever does. Sometimes you see products from Unilever, you may not know whether it's a product from Unilever. So if there's a defect on a particular product, it's that product that creates that perception in the marketplace. So you debias it and remove the impact of a particular defect on the rest of the product. That is an important thing to do. Now, I've talked about supply chain. Supply chain risks will come in different forms, because businesses of most of us here have that kind of an exposure. There are times when we met for the CEO forum, a lady raised a concern that we go to the Smithers Road, it is mostly occupied by foreigners. Why is that the case? Instead of fighting them, must learn from them. They do very good sourcing. They do powerful sourcing. They structure their costs around the negotiations, information, transaction, and management. Make sure that they create a pecking order of these costs and then stick to which one they believe that's going to help them. And they also manage powerful, strong supply chain flow as well, information flow risk, material flow risk, inputs risk, raw materials risk, and all these things. They manage these things and they have special relationship with suppliers. If I go to a shop, that can give me a 6 months warranty of the product I buy. And within 6 months, there's a defect, and I'm able to return it. And based on the fact that they do risk management and cost optimization, it is also cheaper. You go to a garden shop, they give you a receipt. It is written boldly there that goods sold are not returnable. And if you give it a choice, where should I go? I'll really get to a cheaper place, a product that is quality assured, a product that has warranty. Is that not correct? So these are sort of the relationship with suppliers, OEMs, and all that. Make sure these things are properly done so that you compete. I go to Nigeria very often. And those of you who go to Lagos, there's a place in Ikeja, there's a place they call Computer Village. And in Computer Village, over there, it used to be occupied by Lebanese and Indians. They were doing the computers and accessories. But Nigerians, instead of fighting them, learned from them. So they understood sourcing, they understood quality, they understood risk. And as I talk to you now, it's a big area, it's a huge area, full of businessmen into computers and accessories. As I talk to you now, there is a place is occupied by Nigerians. And most of these Lebanese and Indians have moved to pursue Oxford Street. I will get to the point. So we learn from those who do better and compete and structure, get a whole supply chain governance system that targets the satisfaction of the customer. And the best way is to ensure you do risk and do risk very well. Now, once you've done all these risk management, put it all in place, the benefit is that it gives you the flexibility, it gives you solid, optimal supply system, it helps you to advance on the right allocation of capital, it pushes you at the wrong footing of competitiveness. You become so competitive that going into after, for example, if you sit aloof, if you don't do anything, the Kenyans, for example, do very well in competitiveness. They are very competitive. If you are into the same product, they will manage their risk, reduce their losses, and price better. It is as a result of that to constitute what? Another market risk. If your prices are higher, markets won't patronize you and all that. So it is important we structure a very powerful supply chain governance with risk management at the center of supply, end-to-end supply programs. Now, once you've done the risk, you put in place a monitoring system, the risk models, governance and accountability, the best benchmark for risk response. And to us, one of the best approaches to do risk responses is resilience development. SMEs will develop the right resilience programs going forward so that you can stand the test of time and absorb all the shocks that come to you, whether anticipated or unanticipated. And we have designed 6 key themes around resilience: financial resilience, operational, technological, reputational, organizational, and business model resilience. When it comes to reputation, for example, as an SME, if you are able to put in place the right ESG systems, environmental, social governance systems, and then take care of the society, society will pay you back. They'll respond to you. Whether far-flung or near, society will patronize you because they believe you have the interest of society at heart. When it comes to business model resilience, you have to ensure you design the right model with very flexible structures, remove the thick walls of departments, and then allow information to flow from one department to the other, and ensure that kind of flexibility that instigates, that quickens and hastens decision making. Again, must also build a kind of competence that you must put in place for the right human capital to have responses, the right responses to the customer, so that when the customer is far, the customer trusts you and respond. This kind of a model is what we describe as the exciting convergence between resilience building and objectives achievement. If you do that, you are through. Because of time, you can't go through the other types of resilient. There are steps in it. You anticipate, you respond. There are different types. You have a back on, you have a trade-off, you have a bake-in. The bake-in is the best, where you design the right model of a workforce that is wise, a workforce that has a high collective wisdom, that will take the interest of the business at heart and respond to customers for the purposes of growing and attaining value. If you are able to do that, at the end of the day, you are going to be sure you have what it takes to build a resilient business and a resilient economy. Going forward, I want to make a statement, a discussion, not a statement. We talk about high cost of finance, for example. SMEs really suffer. We see the big ones, the corporates, they have the muscles to negotiate cheaper finance, even beyond the jurisdiction. Now, I'm a believer in micro economic management of our finances, of our systems. The first point is to ensure you do value chain analytics. So far, the value chain projects and programs you have are just mappings, just describe the flow of the value adding process from one end to the other. I believe, and maybe the chamber also believes, that the best approach is to design diagnostics, data metrics around all the nodes and the chains of the industry, to a point where, if you pick agri business, for example, you go to the input suppliers to the farmer, pesticides, fertilizers, and the machinery. You look at the numbers there, the cost there, the liquidity levels there, the risk exposures there. You have a number. You go to the farmer, you look at the risk exposures, weather risk, biological risk, and how they are affected in terms of production. Now, poultry farmers are struggling with bird flu. Recently, we were hit with insect attacks and all that. These things, you must document the impact of that on businesses. And then you get to the lakes, where the logistics companies come in terms of transport and all that, and pushing it through to make sure at the end of the day, we are able to get it to go. And then from there, you have the processing companies. There are exposures there. How many are there? If you pick pineapple, for example, how many pineapple processing companies do you have? What are the kind of exposures they have? What kind of interconnected risks? Sometimes the risks are interconnected. If, for example, a farmer faces a liquidity issue or a weather issue, it affects my program, it affects my operations. I may have to stop operations because I can't get my raw material. So as much as you identify the risks at the nodes and the chains, you must also structure an interconnected program of these risks. And it runs through to the end of the chain. At the end of the day, what the banks will now see is a visible industry and the metrics and the dynamics there. So they are not going to price perception again, Mr. BOA. No more perception pricing, but reality pricing. The data is there, the metrics are there for you to do the right pricing. So when you do perception pricing, if it's 20% potential loss, you stretch it to 25% because you don't know, you only perceive. I get to the point. And when it comes to, so you see an improved visible industry. When it comes to business, at the business level too, when you do proper risk management, a business that has documented and profiled over the years, 3, 4, 5 years, and now doing risk, and it's able to convince the bank that after doing risk management, all the forms of risk and the ones that are peculiar to my company, I've been able to improve my performance. And it's properly documented. Again, the business performance becomes so visible, no more perception, and it's priced around it. When that is done, I believe business and industry are going to be more profitable than politics. And a lot of us will stay in business. And the company is going to draw from the resilience we built as a result of that. And going forward, we are going to be a better and more sustainable system than we've already experienced. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samuel Frimpong Boateng. I want to make a suggestion to the chamber that we should organize a workshop, a whole, or maybe a residential one, 3 days, somewhere out of Accra for Dr. Boateng to lecture us and take us through all his risk and resilience analysis. Let's give him a hand again. Our next